This is Jamie Drummond for Good
Okay.
Food Revolution. I am here today joined by Chief of Vines and Wines, Monsieur Guillaume Roffiaen, who's joining us all. Are you joining us from Rheims today?
I'm in Chouilly. Chouilly is the first village Grand Cru in the Côte des Blancs, in the north of la Côte des Blancs.
I know where you are. Now, for those people unfamiliar with Nicolas Feuillatte, although I think most people are quite familiar with them these days, because I believe you're the third biggest brand in the world now, right?
We are, and we are the champagne that the French people prefers.
Yeah, you're number one in France, right? So, which is always
number one in France.
Yes.
We've been like that on that position for more than 15 years.
And what is the size of production today?
Today, it's more or less about 10 million bottles a year for the brand. We've done an impressive year. Last year, 22 was amazing, more than 11 million, but it's usually between 10 and 11.
Okay, so let's go back to the origins of the house, because in the grand scheme of things, it's basically a modern house.
It is. The structure, our structure, was built in 1972, so it's quite young. And the brand started in 76, created by Nicolas Feuillatte himself. He was a businessman implanted in New York, selling African coffee to American people.
Yeah, I read about this.
And thanks to that, he was coming from Champagne at the origin, and he decided to buy a small estate here in Champagne, about 10 hectares, to produce his own champagne, to sell champagne to his friend in the jet set. So the fact is that at once, the middle of the 80s, he had less bottle than he can sell. So he asked our structure if it was possible to buy bottle from us. And we answered, we might need your brand. So it could be good if we could find an agreement to make sure that your brand will survive after you, and then developed the brand. So at this moment, 86, when we buy the brand, the brand was selling something like 250,000 bottles a year, and in less than 35 years, we've been reaching 10 million. So it's just amazing in such a short time.
Right. Now, you came on board in about the year 2000. You were a young enologist at this point, right?
Yeah, that's right. First, I passed my degree as an engineer, and 2 years after, so it was in 99, and 2 years after, I decided to start a new career as an enologist, and so two more years of studying, and then I've made my training period here in Chouilly, and then I stayed for 1 more year as a young enologist working for the brand. Then I left for a bit more than 10 years working for another company, well-known one, also Champagne Drapier.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and then I came back in March 2014 to start a new experience here with more responsibilities.
Now, I've always viewed Nicolas Feuillatte as being a very forward-thinking champagne house. I've noticed the kind of people that they've partnered with throughout the years, and I noticed that it's very with it, I would say. Now, how have you seen the house evolve since your original injection into it in 2000 to where we are at today?
Well, many things changed between 2002, when I left. At this moment, the structure was doing a lot of research and development on new projects and so on. When I came back in 14, they had absolutely nothing on the table. So it took 1-2 years to restart new things, to be again on top of this part, because you work on research and development that you are able to impulse new ways of thinking. So now today we have 7 programs of research and development on yeast, on wine, on technologies and so on wine and vines both, and that's really important to keep interested in new ways of thinking, because of course we have rules in our production. The AOC, the appellation rules are really structured, and it's not possible to do whatever you want. But the fact is that it's still possible to find new ways to make wine differently, to express things that we haven't tried yet. So it's important to, as a minimum of thing, it's important to ask the question to ourselves, and then we'll see. So
now, Champagne, your region has always been, well, 30 years ago when I started studying wine, we were always taught that it was very much a marginal region. It was so difficult to ripen grapes there. Have you witnessed the impacts of global heating upon your vineyards in Champagne?
The fact is that global heating is not working the same way every year. So we have different kinds of effects. Sometimes it's more wet, sometimes it's more dry, sometimes it's really hot, sometimes it's cold for the worst part of the year, and so on. So we have to adapt ourselves. The way we work with our 6,000 growers is important. We have technicians that are on the fields all the year to give them, first of all, to give them the right knowledge on new ways of working in the vines, in the vineyard. Then we accompany them the whole year on technical adjustment to find the right ways to adapt ourselves to the weather and the climate. And it can be working on the way of treatment, of course, but it can be also the way of managing the soil with or without grass. Sometimes you need grass because you have a wet part for the beginning of the year, and then because it's turning really dry, you have to destructure the soil to make sure that each single part of rain will go straight to the roots of the vines and not to the grass. So it's always adapting to be sure that we will optimize the part of water that the vines will be able to gain. The fact is that we adapt ourselves so from one year to another. It's difficult to predict the weather that we are going to have, and sometimes it's a real problem because, for example, if we speak about botrytis, we have to make sure that the wind that we have can dry deeply into the vines directly on the grapes. And the fact is that for this part, we ask people to take out a part of the leaves from the the east side, meaning the way the side from the which the sun comes up, and thanks to that, so we take out a part. I mean, just the bottom part of the leaves, so that we can see the grapes. And the fact is that we do that early July, and thanks to that, it dries this part. And because the sun is on the other side when it's on top, so on the moment that it's the more hot weather and the more sunny weather, it's not a problem because you still have leaves on the other side, so it can't dry out completely the grapes. So it's good because we don't have humidity, but it's good also because it's still possible to mature without having damages on the grapes. So we have many things like that we work on to adapt ourselves. And then the fact is that the maturation period is really different today. If you take the climate 35 years ago, we were in average on 10 years, we were harvesting about the 2nd of October. Today, it's nearly 1 month earlier. It's on the 5th of September on average on 10 years. So it changed a lot because the days are not the open part of the day, meaning the period during the one you have the sun is larger, and the temperature are quite hot at this period compared to what we had during the maturation, the slow and very cool maturation that we used to have 35 years ago. So it changed the parameters of the juice that we have in the grapes, and of course it changed the parameters of the grapes. So we have to change the way of tasting the grapes to find the right moment to harvest.
I understand.
Because tasting the grapes 35 years ago was something that we were not practicing, because the level of sugar and the level of acidity together and the rate of them was enough to take a decision. Today, if you don't have this tasting of the berries, it's maybe you might harvest at the wrong time, because it's a need to have this impression of real fruit. If it's too early, you might have a good rate between sugar and acidity, but it might be too early or too late. And if you don't taste to complete, sometimes you might do it the wrong way.
I hear you. Now, as an anecdotal aside, when I was thinking about this today, I was thinking back to perhaps almost 30 years ago, someone bringing me a still bottle of wine from Champagne, and it was a challenge. I can remember that. It was I mean, I felt like I had to go to the dentist afterwards. However, around 3 years ago, somebody brought me a still wine from Champagne, and it was quite drinkable. And I don't think I'm not sure if that was to do with the actual bottling itself, or if because of global heating, we are seeing much riper still wines from Champagne.
The fact is that today, the level of acidity that we have and the level of pH that we have is quite different.
Right.
We have one consequence on that. It's the level of dosage, the way we accompany the level of acidity at the last step of the blend, what I call the last step of the blend, meaning the dosage after the disgorgement. It's really important to consider that today it's no need to have a high level of sugar, because the acidity is quite light or smooth compared to what we had. It's still fresh, and it's important to preserve freshness. But finally, it's quite well balanced from the moment we do the blend, and then at the far end, it's not a real need now to add a high level of sugar. So we decrease the contribution of sugar during the last 2 decades to find now more and more what we call extra brut, meaning less than 6 grams of sugar. Compared to 20 years, we had a lot of brut and very few brut nature or extra brut. And that's one part. The fact is that on the other side, to be sure that we will preserve a certain level of acidity and of freshness toward the impression of tasting, we keep more and more non-malolactic wines, meaning that we stop the fermentation just after the alcoholic fermentation, the first one, and we don't make the malolactic fermentation on certain wines to preserve a higher level of freshness. Malolactic fermentation transforms multi-acid into single acid. And this fermentation was interesting and is still interesting on a part of the wines because they are really too acidic at the first step. But on some of them, it's need to preserve this acidity so that we can modify and naturally adapt the level of acidity through the blend. And then at the far end, sometime we introduce wines without malolactic fermentation into the liquor. So we transform sugar into liquor thanks to wines, and the wines that we use sometimes are non-malolactic wines. So that's through this liquor we had at the far end after the disgorgement, we can impulse sort of a punch of a hit of acidity to give the global blend certain level of freshness that it was not supposed to have.